I would hope that as the months go by and the years go by, in your being here at Dai Torah High School, that the expression of godless Adam would, at this point, be part of your thinking. And if it isn't yet, hopefully it needs to start happening, because that's certainly one of the most critical aspects of what Musar, at least Sabbatka Musar, which is Yeshiva, is rooted in, the Masorah from the Chavetz Chaim Yeshiva, of trying to transmit that kind of vision and image of who we are, godless Adam. The greatness of a person, the inherent greatness, we heard about it a little bit last night from Rabbi Cohen, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose us and gave us a mission, and all of the aspects of the ability of a human being to go to incredible heights, to achieve incredible things, and to make an incredible impact on the world. That's all part of godless Adam, and every single one of us has it. That's inherently part of who we are as Jews, and as human beings even. But certainly as Jews, we have a unique mission, and we have a unique destiny, and we have a unique ability, because our neshamas are different. We have a unique connection and relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But godless Adam has another aspect to it. Sort of flip side to the godless Adam. The flip side of godless Adam is that very same person who has the ability to rise to incredible heights has the ability to sink to incredible depths. And that very same person, if you're not careful, because if it's all about rah, 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 how great I am, it's very easy to get complacent and say, I'm so great, so that's it, I'm great. So I just can roll through life with a sense of confidence that I'm going to be an incredible person doing incredible things. But we know that's not the way it is. We know that life is a constant tightrope and a constant challenge to make sure that we don't fall into that trap of losing that godless Adam. And part of the inherent greatness of who we are as a human being and as a Jew is that very same person who can literally rise to the stratospheres can fall so incredibly low. If we're not careful, if we're not vigilant, if we don't watch what we're doing, we don't have that handle on our lives to see what it is that we're about to engage in. That's also godless. Wow, look how great HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the person that ability. He can literally go from one end of the spectrum to the other. And sometimes it doesn't even take that long. And midos are very much at the root of what our challenges are. Sfardea is an incredible makkah. We know that Va'eira introduces us to the makkos. The makkos themselves there's so much to learn from. Talk hours and hours about all the different aspects of the makkos, and certainly the very message that we need to remember. Not what I want to focus on right now, but just the concept that while the makkos, we always think the makkos are about us. For us, for the Jewish people to see the hand of God and going out. The Yod Chazak of Israel, this incredible kindness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed us who He is in terms of the miracles that He performed for us. In reality, that was only one part of it. The other aspect was that the makkos were a way of reminding the Mitzrayim and giving them an opportunity. Do tshuva. Mitzrayim, I care about you. I love you. As much as you have been horrific in what you have done to the Jewish people, if you do tshuva, I will embrace you. What an uplifting, incredible message that is, just not by itself, how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares about us and loves us. And loves everybody. And the Mitzrayim, to the very end, had the Mitzrayim done tshuva, they would have been embraced, they would have been brought back by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it would have been a different ending. There would never have been a Kriyas Yamsuf had the Mitzrayim done tshuva. No need to swallow up the Egyptians into the sea, because they would have done tshuva. HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have taken them back. It would have been a different story. But the Mitzrayim did not do tshuva. And Sfardea is an interesting highlight of the Mitzrayim's mentality. What an incredible lesson we can learn from that makkah. Because as you know from Rashi, you all learned it when you were in elementary school already, that the Sfardea, the language of the Torah is, there was one Sfardea. There was one big frog that showed up in Mitzrayim. And that frog was walking around, and I'm not sure which person directly, it doesn't really say, I don't think, who it was that hit that frog, that big frog. But some big frog shows up, and guy takes some kind of stick or a bat or whatever and hits the frog. Get out of here. What's that frog doing in my backyard? Or what's the frog doing in my living room? So get out of here. And he hits the frog, and lo and behold, what happens to the frog is, you all know this story, it splits. Okay, and I'm sure you don't have to be in AP calculus to figure out that every single time the frog gets hit and it splits, what that's going to do geometrically is to how many frogs you'll have after a couple of hundred hits. But it's weird. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends one frog. Now, what, I mean, are the Mitzrayim that foolish? I mean, do you have to really be Albert Einstein to figure out that maybe if, as I hit the frogs are going to keep doubling in their numbers, and it's going to just keep going and going and going. Okay, so maybe I should not hit the frog. Maybe I should maybe get the hint that hitting the frog is not a good idea, and I can maybe stop at 8 or at 16 or at 32, and maybe by the time it gets to about the 1,500,000 frogs, maybe I should have learned my lesson. So what's going on? How in the world did it get to the point that it started with one frog? How in the world did the Mitzrayim get enveloped by frogs? How were there frogs here, as we know the old pre-1A little song, right? Frogs here, frogs there, right? They're all over the place. Okay, they're everywhere. How did they get everywhere? How did they get everywhere if it took thousands of hits by the Mitzrayim to keep blasting those frogs and having them double? It doesn't make any sense. But so you're right, it doesn't make any sense. It's exactly the point. Because life very often doesn't make sense. And people's decisions don't make sense. And there's a situation that a person get into when you hit a frog, or picture many other types of similar scenarios, and the frog does not do what you want it to do. And it is now annoying you. And you hit it again. And now it's sort of getting personal. Because I hit you, and you didn't die, and you didn't go away, and you didn't run away, you just doubled, and now I'm doubly annoyed, and now I'm quadruply annoyed, and you start hitting it, and the Chazal say that the meat of kas got in there. That anger, that frustration that very often gets somebody to self-destruct, and we see it all the time. When you look around, you can see so many different places, and certainly anybody who's into sports knows how many times, literally, sometimes at the most crucial times, a person's ego and anger get in the way, and what could have been the greatest possible moment in this person's career could end up in complete embarrassment and shame because his anger got the best of him. And he's cut by his coach, and he's cut by his team because the wrong penalty, or the wrong situation, the wrong fight at the wrong time cost his team a championship. You couldn't control yourself? You couldn't get yourself together? This is not a championship, everybody said. This is about frogs consuming people's homes, being a country being overwrought by an animal, by frogs. I mean, this is a much more severe situation. Who wants frogs coming out of their ovens and everywhere you turn? And what Rashi and what the pshat of this particular mak is telling us is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, you know what, guys? Tzvardeya is going to be completely in your hands. This horrific plague that completely consumed the Egyptians and horrified them to a tremendous degree, literally did not have to exist. It would have gone away. Think about it. The Mefarshim point out, so wait a minute. If it all was one frog, so let's say the first guy says, you know, this is, that's pretty gross, this frog. But you know what? I'm not getting involved. I'll just move away. Or maybe you have to hit it once and just say, you know what? This is not a good idea. Let me disappear. Let me not get it. Let's not make it personal. Let not my ego get in the way where somehow the rage starts getting in. We start acting in an inappropriate fashion. We start doing things that don't make any sense because we have to win. It's about me against you. And it's an ego game at this point. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching us this incredible quality in terms of midos, in terms of savlanus, in terms of working on anger. How many people you start talking about anger to people? Well, that's the way I am. You know, I just get angry. If you don't like it, then you know what? That's it. Tough luck. No, tough luck. Because Baruch Hu doesn't create us with certain qualities and certain characteristics. Some of them are not so great. The Rambam says we are born flawed. And there's a reason for that, because we have something to work on. We should embrace the challenge. If we have a midah of kas, that is indeed a problem for us. If getting angry gets us into a point of rage where we can't control what we're saying and what we're thinking and what we're doing, we just sort of say, well, that's who I am, and I'm sorry, you set off the wrong button, that's it. No, you have to work on that. That's your challenge. Everybody has different challenges in terms of their lives, in terms of what they have to do to rectify the flaws of their character. We all have them. There's nobody born perfect. Everybody has a certain, or maybe sometimes more than one. But the Rambam says there's certain people who are born very smooth in their midos, they're very sweet, they're very naturally nice. We know those guys. Just, they couldn't hurt a fly even if they wanted to. Other guys just, I don't know, just somehow, they're always in your face. Just so angry, and they're always so boastful and egotistical, and I don't know, they just rub you. Yeah, but they were born with different character traits, born in a different direction. And each one has to take what they have and what they were given by Kadosh Baruch Hu, and not sort of say, that's who I am, as the secular world will tell you. That's who I am, take me or leave, that's it, I'm tough. I am, that's how I was, no. Yes, it is how we were born. That is true. But to say that that's who I am and therefore I am not changing, and that's tough, that's not the Torah way. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent Mitzrayim, Tzvardea for that particular message, to tell them that's what life is about. Work on your midos. And if you can somehow muster the strength to not blast that frog after it started to get in your under your skin, and you started getting really annoyed because you hit it and it just doubled, it didn't respond to Mr. Me. He didn't listen to me. I asked him once, I asked him twice, and that's it. That's the next thing you know, I'm in his face, and who knows what's breaking out. No. Calm. Patience. Work on yourself. Self-control. When a person has self-control, there's many, many stories about kas, or the conquering of kas. A person can take the anger within them and subdue it, and not allow the moment to overcome them, and to remain clear and to remain calm even when there's a tremendous it's a tremendous test. But you know what that means? You know how great that is? In life, those are the big moments where we can rise to the next level. We'll go up to Shemayim after 120 years, and we'll never have any idea that the greatest moments of our lives that will catapult us to the highest levels of Gan Eden will be those moments in time when I could have fallen apart, and I could have gotten angry, and I could have gotten all enraged, and the veins should have been popping out of my neck, but you know what? I took it. I let it go. I didn't get that technical. I didn't get that penalty. I didn't get into that fight. I walked away. Wow. Those moments define a person, I would say. Those moments are when a person rises to the highest levels. And those moments were able to literally save. Can you imagine there only been 9 makos? That's what it seems. There would have been only 9 makos. If the Mitzrayim had been able to control their kas, we would not be talking about the famous 10 makos. We only would be dipping apparently 9 times our finger into the wine at the night of the Seder. 9 makos. They got out of Tzvardea. They didn't do anything. They didn't hit the frog. It's all good. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you know what? It is all good, because I'm going to reward you for not collapsing, not falling prey to that test. Everybody say we need to understand. We're in a mitzvah-oriented world, and certainly we have to do the mitzvahs. There's no question that the things that God asks us to do are all there for us to connect to Him. But we need to understand that the really great challenges, the really sort of overwhelming moments of our lives is when the second part of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. Of course He wants us to do the mitzvahs. Of course He wants us to connect Him every time we put on tefillin, every time we keep Shabbos, every time we put on tzitzis. Those are obviously critical moments. But as far as how we grow, the godless Adam of us coming bigger and greater and more connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you could definitely make an argument that the midos that we work on And the closeness we get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu by Ma'hu Rachum Afato Rachum, Ma'hu Chanun Afato Chanun, the mitzvah of Yirei Malakecha, the mitzvah of recognizing God's in my world and clinging to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and emulating HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That might be the greatest of them all. It allows us to develop, allows us to grow. Rabbi say we all have to stop and to reflect. A guy made a very flippant comment yesterday, but it really got into my kishkus. I forgot who. It doesn't really matter who it was, but somebody made a comment yesterday that the teams are much more depleted as far as manpower. We don't have the numbers that we used to have on teams. There are much less players. And somebody said, this was a kid in the school, wasn't a rabbi or an educator. I'm not talking about injuries now. We're talking about the fact that there are just less people interested in the sports program. And a teenager very seriously said, okay, they have no time for sports anymore. They'd much rather play Fortnite than to play sports. Now you can laugh and you can chuckle. I find that horrific and deeply frightening. Absolutely deeply frightening. If there's even a semblance, a 10% truth to that statement, Rabbi Isai, how scary is that? What that means is, again, that's literally what a person is doing, is banging that frog and having it double and quadruple and get to 1 million, 2 million frogs, totally devouring my essence, destroying my life, but I'm going to keep at it. In one case, it's anger. In another case, it's some other midah. It's some other quality that I've got to overcome. But I'm going to allow my obsession and my addiction and my just readiness to dive into a world that does what? I could give you a list. I'm not here to tell you all the virtues of playing sports, but we all know them, and they're very, very significant. I don't know any virtue of spending 2 to 3 hours a night working on Fortnite. I cannot imagine one. And there's some guy who's going to tell me, well, what do you mean? If I'm the one in 27 billion, then I'll be able to get hundreds of $1,000s because I did my thing. Whatever. You're right. I want to spend $1 on a lottery ticket. I get it. But 3 hours a night because I'm going to be that one guy who's going to win $12 million in the national championship game, a Fortnite game. What? Stop and think. We have to. That's the point of this whole makkah. Stop. Look at life and ask, what am I doing and what's it doing to me? If the Mitzrayim had just stopped and said, well, wait a minute, let me hold up right now, and let me not fall into this trap of banging these frogs and having them continue to multiply, my life would be totally different. But we don't. We just sort of dive right in, and we just keep going. And at what point do we wake up and say, where am I? At what point do we say, what have I done with my years, what I've done with my life? These are all midos that we have to work on, Rabbi. Said this is all a situation where we don't stop to reflect. HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts this opportunity in front of us to make the right decisions, and that we can either grab that opportunity or not. I'll give you just one other example. At the end of the Parsha, this is an incredible pasuk which we need to remember. We really should have it. Maybe we can take some of the other mottos that might be on our wall that might not be so appropriate. Maybe put this pasuk instead on our wall as to remember what we should be doing and how we should be approaching life. Because the last mark in this week's parsha is Makkah's Borod. The last mark of this week's parsha is the hail that came down. And it came down in a horrific way and it destroyed everything in its wake. And whatever was out there when that Borod started to come was destroyed. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm going to give these guys a break. I want you to warn the Egyptians. I want you to tell them that, you know what, guys, another break, another opportunity. It's an amazing thing. Okay? A plague doesn't have to be as terrible as it was, because if you listen to the rules, you can avoid the horror of the plague. Well, how can you avoid this one? Says the pasuk, it's right there in the Chumash. Open up tonight, tomorrow, show your table, show the people at your table and discuss it. It's an incredible discussion to be had. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Moshe, give them a chance. Make an announcement. Go on CNN, go on Fox News, go on all of the radio shows and let the world know. If you don't want to be damaged, if you don't want to fall apart, if you don't want your slaves and your animals to be wiped out by the Barad, all you got to do is one thing. Bring them inside. Bring them inside. Now, this is not the first Makkah here. Moshe Rabbeinu, at this point, when he's being interviewed, on national news, at this point he has some credibility. So the broadcaster says, Moshe Rabbeinu, we're glad to have you here. This is an exclusive interview. Moshe, we know the Egyptians have been suffering here a lot. What do you have for us upcoming now? What's the next problem that we have to face? So maybe, are we done? Moshe says, you're not done. And everyone's watching. All of Mitzrayim are glued to the TV set. So all watching this interview with Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, and I don't know, Mike Wallace or whatever. And he says, no, it's not done. You're going to get barad. You're going to get hail, and it's going to come down like nobody's business. And anything that's out there, any slave you have out there, any animal you have out there, any Mercedes-Benz parked in the driveway, okay, your Porsche, your Lamborghini, all going to be wiped out. But here's the good news, guys. And this is where the camera focuses on Moshe Rabbeinu. It's a dramatic moment. They're all watching. Oh, what do I have to do? What do I have to do? All you have to do to save your Lamborghini is park it in the garage. If you leave it out in the driveway, it's wiped out. You're going to walk out the next morning, you're going to see bupkis. You're going to see nothing. A little rubber in the tires and a yellow sports car flattened to the ground. But if you bring it inside, your cars and your slaves and your animals will all be good. All you got to do is put them under cover. Put them under some kind of roof. But if you leave it out, it's going to be wiped out. So what happens? What does the Pasuk say? The Pasuk says an incredible thing. Hayorei Dvar Hashem, those who feared the word of God did exactly what Moshe Rabbeinu said. They're watching, they're listening, they're sitting there at the edge of their seats, and right away, the minute Moshe Rabbeinu says that, you call your wife, you call your kids, guys, listen to me, listen, quickly. Everything, all the cars, all the slaves, everything we have inside, quick. Tomorrow a barad is coming and it's going to be devastating. But we can save all of our possessions because Moshe Rabbeinu said there's a way out. So he grabbed the way out. Hayorei Dvar Hashem, the word of God meant something to me, so I took it personally. I listened. I had to get into my kishkas. I literally picked up my head, listened to what the message was, and said, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to make an adjustment. I'm not going to just sleep through life. What about those shmendriks who didn't? How do you think the Torah would describe those people? If I asked a typical person in this room, what would you say about a Mitzri who watches the interview, sees the live program, knows that this is not the first Makkah, he's already been through Dam Tzadei Akinim Orav Dever, he's been through it all, he knows what's going on, he knows Moshe Rabbeinu is not whistling Dixie over here. So what do you say about a guy who says, oh, special report, that's interesting, Moshe Rabbeinu, forward coming, Lamborghini, I happen to have 2 Lamborghinis, okay. Okay, so you know what? Goes back to his business, gets on the phone, goes back to his ordering his, he buys 2,000 stocks of Apple before it crashes, and tomorrow morning he walks outside and finds his Lamborghini crushed to the ground. 1,000 slaves wiped out. 50,000 heads of cattle, all dead. What do you say about that guy? You would have probably described him as the shmendrik of the century. This guy's about as dumb and is about as crazy, as self-destructive as anybody could ever imagine. Yet the Torah doesn't describe him that way, Rabbi Isai. The Torah describes the essence of successful people versus not successful people. And I'm not talking about your bank account. People who can actually strive to become better. People who actually can rise to the occasion when a challenge comes up. They can actually hold themselves back and do the right thing. And become great. And tap into the godless Adam. Or not. The difference is 2 words. Amazing words which the Torah uses. The Torah says, and again, bring it up and discuss it, because it's an incredible message, an incredible focused teaching moment. V'asheloisam libo el dvar Hashem. Those who did not place the word of God to their hearts. They just didn't care. Sima slave. They knew it was coming. They knew the problem. I know that if I'm doing something for 3 hours a night, if I know if I'm blowing up every time a guy pushes me the wrong way, if I end up throwing a basketball at somebody every single time I miss a layup, I know something is wrong. So what am I going to do about it? My parents ask me to do something, I blow up at them. They get upset at me and I get triple upset at them. And don't I recognize that something is wrong? Don't I have to do something about it? Don't I have to ask myself, where am I going with this? What's this doing for me? How's this going to help me? The difference between those who get it and those who don't is 2 words. Some liboy. Vasheloi, some liboy dvar Hashem. You either place your heart to the message at hand, or you basically say, talk to the hand. I'm not interested. And honestly, I've seen situations and it's very sad. I try to observe kids when people are talking. I've seen kids literally, you have a guest speaker, you have somebody comes up there, it could be a Shabbaton, and somebody comes up and they're very electric and they're very engaging and they have a powerful message. And you say, oh my gosh, I'm sure these kids will be listening and getting the message, and literally the minute the person started opening his mouth, he didn't even say one word fully. It was the first syllable of the first word. Talk to the hand. Me? I'm someplace else. You're trying to tell me a message to get me to wake up, to get me to smell the coffee, to get me to maybe become better, for me to maybe get inspired, for me to become close to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Talk to the hand. It ain't happening. We almost make a pre-conditioned, programmed mental note in our heads. If anything ever comes my way that might actually alter the direction of my life and help me improve who I am, become a better person, a more calmer person, a less angry person, a less conceited person, whoa, I'm in the loisam liboy category. Don't talk to me. I got my head down and I'm sleeping like the 10th level of the sleep mode is right there where I am. And it doesn't take me long to get there. I'm going there at 1,000 miles an hour because I have no intention of moving my heart not 1 inch in anybody's direction. And the message could be coming from God himself. Or from his prophet Moshe Rabbeinu. Pretty good emissary, pretty good ambassador. No. Move the Lamborghinis on. No. Ain't happening. I don't have time to move my heart. I don't have time to listen to the message. I don't have time to recognize that maybe something in my life needs to change. I don't have the time or the inclination or the apparent ability. We do have the ability, we just don't want to recognize it. It might take a little bit of work. It might actually take a little bit of effort. So let me continue on my fortnight adventure. Let me continue on whatever it is that I'm continuing on. Let me wallow in whatever world I'm wallowing in that I know is not healthy and good for me. And ignorance is bliss, but it's not bliss at all. It seems like bliss. As Rabbi Cohen said last night, you get underneath the bliss, you see misery and depression and frustration and nothing good. If we're not exercising our free will to control the challenges and to try to become better when those challenges come up, and we're becoming slaves to our passions. And who wants to be slaves? We worked very hard to get out of slavery. God took us out of slavery. And we're working very hard to God to get right back in. Slaves to our passions, slaves to our negative inclinations. The right side, let us recognize this is what life is about. I'm not talking to teenagers. I'm talking to every single person, including myself, in this world. As a 70-year-old, as an 80-year-old, as a 90-year-old, there are no exceptions to this rule. Midos is where the action really is. Of course, we got to do the mitzvahs. Goes without saying. But when Rav Chaim Friedland came to Rav Shach, Zechrono Livracha, 2 incredibly holy people who Rav Chaim Friedland wrote the Sifsei Chaim. We have it on the shelf there. Incredible work of Musar and Ashkafa. and he knew he didn't have much time left in this world, and he went to Rav Shach, Rav Lazy Shach, the Gadol Hadar of Padov, the Rosh Yeshiva Padovich, and he said, "What should I do? I got a couple of weeks to work left to live. What should I work on? What should I focus in on my last few days in this world?" And well, he could have said something deep and Kabbalistic, because certainly Reb Chaim Friedland was a deep and great person. You know, he said, no. You got 2 weeks left? Find the one area in life that maybe you can actually improve on. Find that one media that you still maybe haven't really mastered, and see what you can do in terms of making that a little bit better. There is no person in this room who doesn't have some area that they can improve on. There are many amazing people in this room, but perfect we're not. Perfect we're not. If we can find those areas, recognize them, embrace the challenge, be excited about the ability to maybe make a difference. And next time that moment comes when we get so easily annoyed when our mother or our father or somebody tells us something that we don't like, when that rule gets in the way, we're about to blow up because we just don't like, it just annoys me. You know what? Look at the Egyptians. Look what happens if you're not some slave. Look what happens if you just blast it Tzfardea because you're angry and just not ready to recognize that maybe I should control myself. It might be my best interest to sort of shut the thing off already. And an hour later it's still on. That will be taking advantage of what we're in this world for. That's godless Adam, Rabbi say. Recognizing the ability for us to make the mistake, but accepting the challenge, I'm not going to let it happen. That's godless Adam. Because Hashem, if we can achieve that level and that constant attitude in life, to always grab those challenges, to embrace them, not to be blind to what we need to accomplish, then constantly we will be always some slave. We'll always put our heart to the right situation. We'll always make the right decisions. And that's Chizko Meichel Chayil Mizach Deburas Mishrak.